James, are you a rebel or an Imperial?
Here's Andrew, and take it away,
I am an Imperial, definitely, 100%.
I knew it. You know how I could tell?
How?
It was all that spying that you do. All those times you accidentally called me Lord Vader. I knew it was only a matter of time before your facade crumbled. I'm Andrew. This is James.
Yo!
He may or may not be a traitor. We're not sure yet. Our computer's certainly a traitor.
No.
It's not giving us the proper screen with. There we go.
Well, we also only have one microphone because Andrew failed.
That's right. But we're sharing because that's what rebels do. We share.
Sharing is caring.
Welcome to I Rebel. We're going to start... Well, we're not going to start Season 3. We started Season 3 last time, but we're going to dive into Season 3.
We're going to get the meat of Season 3.
The very meat of Season 3.
Can I ask you a question? The episode we're about to get into, what's it called?
It's called The Holocrons of Fate.
Do you remember the first commercial teaser for this?
No, actually.
I do. It happened right after the season premiere of Rebels, which was a two-parter.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and they showed it, and it was like Darth Maul, and it was the end. I was sold. I was sold. He had Hera hostage. Anyway, that's one of my favorite. Aside from like the mid-season one, this one really got me.
So, but do you have like, is your memory of this episode kind of tainted by that anticlimactic, setup of the trailer, or is it like, yeah, I dig this?
It's not to get into spoilers, but it's more for me with this episode really showed me the problem with this season of Rebels that I had was the pacing overall. Mm-hmm. And I feel like they rushed because it ended season 2 ended with Maul. I felt like they really wanted to get him back in it, and that was at the expense of timeline. You know how I feel that Maul would have been better served either all right now or all at the end. Not, we'll sprinkle him in. Because the way this season goes, and I hate to get ahead of all this because we're talking about episodes, but there's the Sabine storyline and the Maul storyline, and we'll get in towards the end of the episode season, which is only like a couple episodes away from this one. The Sabine arc kind of hits a glitch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
We'll get into it. But anyway, so the teaser, because of Maul not going forward, is really what hinders this episode for me. The episode itself, I really, really enjoy as an episode.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Maul in this season, he was great when he showed up, but he was just spread too thin. Yeah. Like he would have benefited from, I guess, a tighter arc, like just something more. I mean, he shows up here, Holocrons of Fate. He'll show up maybe in another 6 episodes, and then maybe another 6 episodes after that. Like it's very spread. Maybe that's a good thing. I don't know.
It's not the amount of Maul overall.
No, what we got was perfect.
But it's when he shows up. It's almost because you have the Sabine, you have Thrawn, and then you put Maul in there to throw everyone off, like not us, but like characters off in a lot of ways, and if that feels it was a little misplaced. I almost felt it a bunch of times.
Yeah, it's almost like because he's always, we always get like a bunch of rebellion stories, suddenly followed by a Maul story. It almost feels like every time he shows up, he's interrupting the narrative because of that. Mm-hmm. Instead of getting this more fluid storyline with him, I don't know, but I still like what they did with him.
Oh, what? Yeah, like. Overall, I really, really enjoyed what they did with him.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, like I said, I feel like if they would have put him in this episode, maybe the next episode, not the next episode, but earlier on, like I think I've said this before, if his arc would have ended by the winter break, I think that would have made the most sense. We'll have to watch the episodes, but because the Sabine storyline, and you know how I feel when she's like, I'm staying back. She's only not with the crew for about a minute and a half.
Yeah,
but we'll get into that later on. Andrew, you just talk.
Patience. So the Holocrons of Fate. Here's my not beef, but here's my concern with the Holocrons of Fate. So what we learn in this episode, this is the one where Maul takes over the Ghost and he demands the Holocron from the Jedi, etc., etc. If a Jedi Holocron and a Sith Holocron are combined, they kind of turn into like Holocron Voltron, and they grant infinite wisdom to the person combining them, like a Force Dragon Ball. Is that what it's?
I don't know anything about Dragon Balls.
I know they grant wishes if you bring them all together. That's literally the extent of my knowledge. I know if Joshua Lucas is watching this, he'd be like, "No, dude," because he knows the whole mythos and everything. But that's literally all I know is if you collect all the Dragon Balls, you get a wish. And I feel like this was kind of a similar thing. Like if you bring a Jedi and Sith holocron together, somehow it gives you like God knowledge. I don't know, because they do that in this episode.
Well, I guess it kind of makes sense because then you get all the knowledge of the Sith and all the knowledge of the Jedi, and if you combine them, that's infinite knowledge. Presumably. I don't know. I'm just looking at your Smallville DVDs.
I'm missing, I think, 9 and 10.
I have the box set.
Oh, you
I got it for free.
Saad Akbar, if you're a fan of Smallville and you like the guy who played Green Arrow, watch him on This Is Us. God, that show is good. Watch This Is Us.
Oh yeah, that's right. I've never seen it. I don't watch TV. I did watch The Voice this week.
Was there someone with a voice?
There was a few people. It wasn't by choice.
Sorry, Aaron.
I just had to sit there and watch it.
We got some interesting droids in Holocrons of Fate too, and I want to touch on them really quickly. Maul has droid bodyguards, and they are the same style of droids that are the taxi drivers in Attack of the Clones on Tatooine. The one that's like, okie dokie, they're that one. I like those droids. They have wheels.
Which just begs the question, why isn't Filoni in charge of all the films?
Exactly.
He gets it. Or someone gets it. If it's not him, somebody gets it. That's dealing with Rebels.
Yeah. But that's pretty much Holocrons of Fate. You know, we got Holocrons, we got Fate, we got a Vision. It ends with the big kind of whopper cliffhanger with Maul seeing something in the Holocron. Ezra sees apparently the same thing. Because what's cool is Maul, we don't know what question Maul wants answered, but we know he's all about revenge. Ezra, we know he wants the question he wants to be answered is, how do I destroy the Sith? And from what we gather, the Holocron showed them both the same thing. A planet with twin suns.
Yeah. Which shows me... what did you say Maul wanted?
We never get it explicitly stated, but it's hinted that he wants revenge on the guy who cut him in half.
And so, yeah, I think all of it has to do with obviously on Tatooine, it has to do with Obi-Wan believing that Luke is the chosen one. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't think Luke is, in fact, the chosen one. I believe Pablo Hidalgo said it himself that Obi-Wan was mistaken. He said he just believes it, but it's not actually true. Anakin is a chosen one. But at the end of the day, Luke is the one that kind of rids the galaxy of this. Because of Luke, I should rephrase it.
Right.
Because of Luke Skywalker, there are no more Sith in the galaxy. If Luke Skywalker doesn't leave Tatooine, Vader and the Emperor still reign supreme. Vader never turns to the good side, doesn't become Anakin again, doesn't kill the Emperor, and what have you. So I believe that is what the Holocron is showing us. At least that's what I got when I first watched the show.
Yeah, I think you're right, because Ezra just basically says, how do I destroy the Sith? And that's what it shows them, a planet with twin suns. Yeah. Like, clearly one of the best Jedi left in the galaxy, and Darth Vader's son, they're on that planet right now. And it ends with, Maul rushing off, screaming, he lives, and we all got excited because we knew what he was talking about. Now let's move on to episode 304.
Well, you're not going to get an answer.
You're not going to get an answer, not yet.
Still a great episode, though.
Mm-hmm. 304 is called The Antilles Extraction.
Written by my good friend Gary Whitta. I've never met him.
He's awesome, though.
But I follow him on Twitter. And he introduced me to the website that I use to publish my book. So
that's right, he did.
Not purposely. he didn't say, hey, James, here it is. But yeah, because through him. Anyway, He wrote this, and he also wrote the story for Rogue One and a story in the book that you're reading right now, Certain Point of View.
Certain Point of View, yeah. Gary Whitta's the man. He's been a Star Wars kind of like high lore keeper for a long time.
And he is the reason Chuck Wendig got Aftermath. He recommended Chuck Wendig for Aftermath.
Wow, I did not know that.
Love him or hate him, it's up to you.
Gary, if you want to recommend me for a book, dude, trust me, I'm free.
And he, just a month ago, he got the NES Classic Edition, which has been discontinued for like 6 months, and I don't know what happened there. So anyway, Gary Whitta, if you're watching, what happened?
Yeah.
Anyway, he wrote this episode about everyone's fourth favorite X-Wing fighter.
That's right. Wedge Antilles is in this, and there's also another pilot who kind of doesn't get enough love. Derek Hobby Clivian is in this.
That's right.
We know him as Hobby. He literally has one line in Empire Strikes Back where he says, hold on, let me try to channel my Hobby here. 3 fighters against the Star Destroyer. That's him. That's Hobby. You gotta love Hobby. For those of you keeping track of the planets at home, we have 2 new planets in this episode.
Oh,
Let's see
look,
if I
my
can
hand
pronounce
is going to heaven.
your hand. Oh my God, your hand is in a L'Oreal commercial. Tiralov, I think, is that how you pronounce it, and Montross, which brings our grand total of planets up to 23. Rebels gave us 23 planets so far, which is still about 18 less than the Tarkin number.
Classic Tarkin.
Classic
James
Lucino.
Lucino, you son of a gun.
So Sabine goes undercover as a pilot, as a TIE pilot. She dyes her hair black because she's trying to be undercover. She looks good with black hair. I dig the black hair, Sabine. And she basically meets Wedge and Hobby, and she's like, "Hey guys, come join the rebellion because these Imperials are jerks."
Did you feel we needed this episode?
We didn't need it, but I don't consider it filler because of how important Wedge and
Well,
Hobby
that's what I
end up
mean. Do you think we needed to know that? Like, did this need to be Wedge's backstory?
No, but his backstory didn't need to
Be told.
that too. It didn't need to be like a whole 300-page novel backstory of Wedge on some planet being like, "I like to fly ships." I mean, I would rather get this 23-minute little snippet where it's just like, yeah, he was like every other young man in the galaxy, a good pilot who had eyes on the Imperial Navy because that's where good pilots go.
But again, this is the problem with this season of with Rebels as a whole. The entire time it's been on is you have the beginning episodes, the first few of the season, which you're like, yes, and then you have the one we just saw, and you're like, yes, and now you have this one, which is a fine episode, and it's like you said, I wouldn't consider it filler either, but it doesn't fit in with what we just watched necessarily. It fits in with the idea of the show being called Rebels more than the plots they're giving us. Does that make sense? Like this would have been better suited for like season 1 or 2, like the first half of season 2 almost in a lot of ways. I like the episode. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying this is where Rebels, as much as it succeeds doing these stories, this is where it also takes a step back and it kind of stumbles in the overall arc of the series.
But what I do like though is that Wedge sticks around on the show. So he's kind of like Sato. He'll pop up every now and then, and he's going to keep being a presence in the rebellion.
Do you think he'll die?
Wedge? Oh, every time. He will die in every episode. That's one thing that I can't wait to find out. More than like, is Boba Fett alive? Is what happened to Wedge after Jedi? Did he die? I mean, obviously we saw him in Aftermath a few times, but like, did he ever die? And if so, how? Like, how do you kill Wedge?
See, so this is side Akbar on this one. So this is what I thought Aftermath. When Aftermath started, I thought, oh, they're killing Wedge off because Lawson did not want to do Force Awakens, right? He had no interest in doing it. So I was like, oh, they're going to kill Wedge off in Aftermath. Obviously, that does not happen, and he becomes an even bigger character throughout Aftermath. But now I've heard rumors that he might actually be in The Last Jedi.
I think it'd be funny, and like, it would be a huge middle finger to Lawson. But it'd be funny if he's like, "Nah, I don't want to do this Star Wars thing. This is garbage." And then just so in response to that, Lucasfilm puts Wedge in the movie, but they cast like Gary Oldman to play Wedge. Like they just go above and beyond. It's like, okay, we'll get someone else.
Can you recast any of these characters in Star Wars, aside from going younger or older? Same age.
Same age? Well, we're getting close with Han. I think once we see the Han Solo movie, then we'll be able to...
But could you be like, okay, we're doing episode 10, and Mark Hamill's like, I'm not into it. I'm retired. All right, let's recast Luke.
No, Luke's a big deal, man. Luke is...
That's what I mean. Like, can you recast... I know people wanted, we're like, oh, you can get Meryl Streep to play Leia. Stop it!
That's me. I was one of those people. I still think that's
I punched you.
You did.
That was the worst punch ever. I've been playing Mario World, and you punch Yoshi's head to make his tongue come out. No, I don't want... Don't recast my Leia. That is. Mario World?
Yeah, which one?
Super Nintendo.
Oh, Super... Okay, yeah. That's like the one major one that I didn't play a lot of because nobody I knew had an SNES. But yeah, no, I think there are some people you can recast, and I think Wedge is definitely one of them. I would.
Does anyone even, aside from hardcore Star Wars fans, does anyone even know Wedge is a thing?
I would literally fall into the aisle laughing, like splitting my sides in the theater if Gary Oldman shows up as Wedge. It's like, look at that speed. You sure you're gonna pull out in time? Like he's just like a 65-year-old Wedge.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be so great. Like even the way Wedge was in this episode of Rebels, I mean, he didn't really look a whole lot like Dennis Lawson. Like he just looked like a guy.
Yeah, because he wouldn't be that much younger.
No, he wouldn't. And
He
the
was
thing
like
about
literally
Wedge
like
is
3 years, maybe?
we see him maybe for like 4 seconds without the helmet. So most of the time that we know this 40-year-old character is just like this.
Yeah.
So, well, actually, I should just go like, because he doesn't have. There's no thing on their mouth. But
Look at the size of that thing.
look at the size of that thing. So his face is kind of, to us, even though we know him and love him, is kind of malleable. Even Biggs, like as long as you have a dude with dark hair and a mustache and say that's Biggs, be like, okay.
Do you think Biggs is going to show up on Rebels? Has he?
God, I hope so. I
hasn't,
can't
right?
remember.
We haven't gone that far into season 3 yet. We don't know.
I want more Biggs.
He would make sense, I think.
He would make a lot of sense. One last thing I wanted to bring up about the Antilles extraction. Oh, 2 last things actually. Wedge says, I can fly anything. Just like a certain Dameron we know and love.
Whoa.
I
What
know,
are you
right?
trying to say?
Illuminati, possibly confirmed.
A shout out to who was it that found that picture of me? That was just
Oh my God, that was amazing. Whoever did that, thank you.
I think that's photoshopped.
It better be. We meet another character who I really like, and I've always liked the idea of this kind of character. We meet Volt Scaris, who's basically the Red Baron of the Empire. He's just like a TIE pilot who just gets it done, and you can't shoot him down. He's basically the evil Wedge.
Which is really what Star Wars seems to be doing is with Iden Versio from Battlefront 2, which I have not played the beta. Have you? No.
No, I only play single player games.
It is single player.
That's
don't
what
know
they
if
want us to think.
No, there's definitely going to be a lot of single player. Battlefront 1's amazing. Battlefront 2. Anyway, this is where they're going with this, though. And you see it in Lost Stars as well. You get to see this side of the Empire.
Yeah.
Where there is skill in there, but in the films, we just see the secondary
Right.
ones.
I would love if the films threw in just like a Wedge character who's just in the background, but he's like an Imperial guy, and it's like, God, we can't shoot this guy down. There was a guy in Legends like that. His name was Baron Fell. I don't know anything about him. I just know there was a guy named Baron Fell who was like a kick-ass TIE pilot, but he's not canon anymore.
You've mentioned him several times.
Several times. Hashtag Baron Fell is my hero. Let's move on. Speaking of heroes, segue! Episode 305, Hera's Heroes. This was a sweet episode. First of all, because it has a Hogan's Heroes reference in the title, so A+. Second of all...
And you're in love with Hera.
Well, I'm in love with Sabine, but Hera's like, I love her.
No, stop. Every time you're like, I love Hera, I love Hera. Now
I do love Hera.
Now all of a sudden you love Sabine.
They are my 2 favorite characters on the show. It started off with Hera being my favorite, then once we got to know Sabine, she became my favorite. But they are both wonderful, wonderful people. And I want to see them succeed and be happy, and we almost get that in this episode, but then we don't. Because Hera has a family heirloom, and it is called, I want to tell you the name of it because I think it's important. It's called a Calicori. And it's cute because it looks like a little doll with like head tails, like a Twi'lek. And it's basically like the equivalent of a family quilt, like everybody adds a piece to it. And Hera's Calicori is in her house, in her home on Ryloth. But the thing is, Thrawn and his people have occupied Ryloth, and they are using that home because it's kind of a big house. I think the Syndulas had some money. So they kind of used all these manors as base of operations. And somehow, I can't remember how Hera finds out, but she's like, I want my Calicori. So she goes with Ezra undercover, try to get it back. And this is our first taste. We've seen him, but this is our first taste of the Thrawn that we know and love from the books. And you've read those books, right? You've read the Thrawn books.
The original one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you think of those? Like, what did you think of Thrawn back then? Like,
I liked them. I read them a long time ago, and I can't lie. I liked them, but I never really got obsessed with them like people did. I don't know. I think it was just me and I'm like, this is not a movie.
So it wasn't, because I know like a lot of people who, like, when that came out and they read it, they were like, this is the second coming. This is episode 7. Like, this is the next
No,
step.
I wasn't in that environment.
Mm.
I was like, I got the books for free.
Oh,
and I read them probably out of order. And I never thought anything of them other than Star Wars. I used to get a lot of Star Wars books when I was a kid. Like like I said, I didn't buy any, but I just would get them, and I would read a lot of them. And my thought was always, like, it's fine, but it's not Star Wars because it's not the movies. And I remember always hearing like George Lucas be like, these aren't the movies, is what I always knew anyway. Mm-hmm. So when I read the Thrawn books, I liked it. I thought he was a cool character, but I never obsessed over it because I knew it wasn't. There was no reason. This is my problem with the old canon, was I never got into it really because I knew it had no effect on anything. And you could read, and as good as the stories could be and the characters, they really amounted to nothing.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? But yeah, it was cool to now, like, I was really excited when they brought him in because I was like, okay, now you can tell these stories. And I got the Thrawn book right away like you did, like the new one, like I was super excited for it. Anyway, that's a long-winded answer to say something. I don't know.
No, same. I was I would devour Star Wars books when I was younger, like in the mid to late 90s, but it was mostly the nonfiction reference books. It was mostly like the guide to ships, the guide to characters.
Well, you still get all those.
I still get all those. So I would read like the essential guide to characters, the first old school one with didn't even have color pictures, just black and white pictures of the characters. And I would read about characters like Thrawn, characters like Mara Jade, even weird ass people like Elder Sticketh and like Joris Cabeath, who most people might not remember their names. But I would read about these characters and be like, I don't know who the hell this is, but these 9 paragraphs on this page give me the gist of it. So since the late 90s, I kind of knew what Thrawn was about. I knew what Rook was about and Mara Jade, Talon Card, all that. So I had the idea, but I did not read those Timothy Zahn books until the announcement that we got.
Oh, I remember you were like, you told me when you started reading them.
Yeah. Because we heard the news from Celebration London, and I was like, okay, I gotta see what Thrawn's about. I wanna see what the old Thrawn was like, so that when they throw in Easter eggs of old Thrawn and new Thrawn, I'll be able to appreciate them. That was my mind. I just wanted to be able to appreciate the little hints Filoni would give. So in this episode, we got that first taste of what everybody knows Thrawn is. We got that like evil Sherlock Holmes, that really logical, cold, manipulative guy who just looks at something and is like, I know what to do because I looked at this painting. I wish I had that ability.
Don't we all?
Oh, a Rembrandt? I should buy stock in Apple. So he's like a cool customer. He's really not like any Imperial we've seen before. He's not hot-headed. He's not barking orders. Especially in the old books, he'll compliment people. In the old books, he will make a note to walk across the bridge of his Star Destroyer and tap a guy on the shoulder and say, "Gunner, I just want you to know that was excellent shooting."
That was something that Timothy Zahn spoke about recently about Thrawn, was that he's like, the Empire ruled with fear. He's like, I don't want Thrawn to rule with fear. I want him to with reason and respect.
Exactly.
And that's a great character trait.
Yeah, and his crew respected him, but they were still afraid of him because they knew he wouldn't take stuff sitting down.
It's still ruling out of fear, but it's a respect.
Yeah,
fear. Yeah,
exactly. So it was a cool little balancing act he did. But now in this episode, he does something that we never really see him do again, which is he flies off the handle a little bit. There's an officer who makes some comments about aliens, kind of like a racist, bigoted comment, and Thrawn grabs his collar and just goes, which we don't see. That's not what we think of when we think Thrawn. In that whole Thrawn novel, the new one that's like 500 pages, he never once is upset. Yeah. So it's interesting to see him, see the cracks in the facade, and it makes me wonder, just like what is this guy? What are the buttons? What's the raw nerve for Thrawn?
Obviously racism,
but like where's the point where he will not back off and smooth out his jacket and say I apologize? Like where's the point where he will become an animal and like tear your throat out?
That's a tough question because I don't know if there is because the minute you would have to be alone with him and no one around him to witness that, because the minute other people around him see that, the respect slowly starts to fade because you can see his weakness all of a sudden. Right. So I would say highly unlikely, unless of course you are in a secluded room with him and no cameras, no eyes, no one will know the outcome, and you will not survive.
Yeah. He and one thing that I find kind of interesting about him too is he's not the kind of like every other Imperial, if you talk smack about Palpatine in front of them, it's like you talk smack about God in front of like a Christian. Like you don't do that. You don't talk smack about people's religions in front of them. And that's how the Empire worked. It was like, don't you dare talk about Palpatine like that. That's treason. But Thrawn, I don't feel is like that because of his origin, where he comes from, how he sort of integrated his way into the Empire on his own. I feel like if you were to go just be alone in a room with Thrawn and be like, man, that Palpatine guy's a real asshole, Thrawn would just be like, that's an interesting opinion. Like he wouldn't, because he's not invested in the Empire. That's just, a means to his end, which I think is really neat. But let's move on to episode 306.
Oh yeah.
This is the only episode of Rebels ever that I have seen live on TV as it aired.
That's right.
And it just so happens I saw it with this guy.
Yeah. This was early on in our YouTube days. I don't even think the podcast was on YouTube yet. I think we're just doing cheesy videos and like stupid theory videos and stuff for fun. And you came over to do one, and I think we did one. And then we invited Rob over, and we played Star Wars trivia.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you won that one.
All I remember is there were lightsaber puzzle pieces.
You had to put the lightsaber together. And then after Rebels, we're like, let's just watch Rebels.
Yeah.
And it happened to be the greatest episode of Rebels in the history of Rebels.
This was a wonderful episode. It's called The Last Battle. And this is about, literally, the final battle of the Clone Wars. We got a new planet, which is called, let me see if I pronounce it right, Agamar. Oh, no, I lied. I'm sorry. Agamar was already mentioned in Clone Wars. This is our first look at it, but it was already mentioned, so it doesn't count. Never mind. Scratch that. But they find Agamar, and they find that there's a depot, and it's long been abandoned, but it is full of old battle droids of all types. Droideka, super, regular, and the one droid who's controlling everything. I forget what those ones are called, with like the snout thing. They're running this little depot, and they still are under the impression that they're fighting the Clone Wars, because nobody has shut them down. They're still kicking. So Rex and Ezra and Kanan end up in this depot, and they're dealing with these droids who come out all of a sudden, and they're still like, oh, Clone Wars is still happening. And Rex suddenly goes into like this war mode. It's like his PTSD kicks in, and he's like, oh, Clanka's everywhere, and he's like running around, and he's all shook up. And like normally Rex is kind of easygoing in Rebels, but here we see like the Clone Wars still broke a little piece of him. Like a piece of him is still there. And what was great was that this battle was therapy for him to kind of exercise those demons and get the Clone Wars out of his heart, out of his system, out of his memory forever. They use yellow font, instead of orange.
Throwback.
That was so sweet. I loved that. And they even used the music for the opening title. Like, they did that whole thing, which was great. And then to cap it all off, we got something we never thought we'd see. We got stormtroopers versus battle droids. Yeah. Which was a very one-sided fight.
I said the series should stop.
That's where you were like, you know what?
It's never gonna back
down. It was just a sweet episode to kind of call back to days of yore, to the old prequel days, and it really kind of fulfilled the childish fantasies everybody had, like who would win, battle droids and stormtroopers? Who would win, the droideka or the AT-ST? And we get to see all those kinds of fights in here, and at the end of the day, it's not even filler, because they take one of the shuttles from that depot, and that becomes the new Phantom, because their old Phantom was destroyed. So everything's tied up in a nice little bow. I love the last battle.
Oh, absolutely.
And here's hoping that whatever the next cartoon is, there's like a Rebels episode of that cartoon.
That'd be cool, yeah.
Anything else you want to say about Last Battle before we move on?
No, it like as it doesn't connect to the Maul or any stuff like that. Much of that, it is kind of a fillery episode aside from what you just mentioned. But it again, this is like my favorite episode because it has all these things that I love. And sometimes, we forget what Star Wars is. Sometimes what makes Star Wars so great are these little things, and these are things that you want. And the visuals and these silly characters that come and go are what we love about Star Wars. And it's not always the plot that drives us with Star Wars. Like Star Wars, a lot of the Star Wars films are the plots are pretty simplistic when you think about it and break them down. But it's the characters, the visuals, the colors, the look, the feel, like all that stuff is what you love. And this episode kind of reminded us of, oh yeah, that's right. This is why I love all that stuff. And it brought, the prequels and to the original trilogy almost together in a lot of ways too.
Yeah, this does what we wish more movies would do, is it really bridges that gap. And it has such a beautiful sort of message at the end when Ezra kind of talks everybody down from this fighting. And he looks to Rex and he looks to this other droid who's running the show there. And he says, guys, the Clone Wars ended, but neither of you won. He said the only person who won was Emperor Palpatine, was Darth Sidious. He orchestrated all of this. He manipulated both of you. And at the end, he came out on top with an empire and you guys were relegated to nothing. And that was such a beautiful moment, for the characters to realize that, and to realize that the real war, the real bad guy is and always has been this horrible man in a hood with a delightfully handsome scarred face who's just ruining this galaxy. And they need to look and see who the real bad guys are. But man, yeah, the last battle was so sweet. And then we got 307 Imperial Super Commandos, which is very specific title. It's very specific. It's about Imperial Super Commandos. Now, ever since episode 213, which is almost like a whole season ago, we met Fen Rao, the Mandalorian dude, who was the leader of the Protectors of Concord Dawn. And ever since then, at the end of that episode, they took him captive, and he's just been sitting around as a captive on the Rebel base this whole time. That must have been awkward.
Yeah.
It's just like, so you're going to let me go? I don't know. We got this Darth Maul guy to deal with now. I hope they give him a book or something to keep him company. So
it was a certain point of view.
Yeah, he's like, I'm in half of these. We get a little adventure with Chopper, Ezra, and Sabine, where they go to the planet. I think it's Concord Dawn again, and they run afoul of some Imperial Super Commandos, who are essentially Mandalorian warriors from Clan, what's it called? Clan Saxon, I believe.
There's too many clans.
There's a lot of clans. But the guy they meet is Gar Saxon. And basically him and his clan made a deal with the Empire where they're like, we'll wear Mandalorian armor, but we'll wear it white like stormtroopers, and give us money and we'll fight for you and we'll kill rebels and whatever. And that's what happens. And so you have these Mandalorians who are essentially stormtrooper Batman, but like 12 of them. And they're all fighting in a group and they have jetpacks and they're causing trouble. And we meet Gar Saxon, who becomes like a major villain this season, and he hates Sabine because of Mandalorian politics. And they get their jetpacks, and we have that huge jetpack fight that was teased ever since this season was teased back at like Celebration, with Ezra hanging from Sabine, and he's like swinging the lightsaber. I really like this fight. Did you like this fight?
I did, yeah.
This is what I love about when action sequences get creative and it's not just two people sword fighting or two people shooting at each other. You have this chase scene with action. You've got somebody flying and a bunch of people flying after them, and one guy dangling from a grill trying to like keep his balance while he swings a lightsaber around, and then Chopper's hovering around everybody. I love that. I love when that happens. That's one of the reasons why I love the Pirates of the Caribbean movies so much, is because every fight scene is always something cool like that. It's not just like, let's fight. It's never just that. There's creativity to every fight, and I think this is a great example of a fight like that. Imperial Super Commandos rocks. Oh, and we just got a tweet that says the official
Shout out to Jacob Nixon. We're recording this on Thursday for all of you.
We are, yeah.
If you follow us on... But I said that they were going to do something at Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con.
You're right.
I completely nailed that one. We'll do a video after this.
We will, yeah.
You guys already saw the video that we're talking about doing after this, so don't even worry about it.
Ooh, it's like time travel. So that's Imperial Super Commandos. Everybody's fantasized about that jetpack fight at least once, I think, since we saw Boba Fett back in the day. So I'm glad.
This is the thing that an animated film can do, but rather easily, somewhat easily, is you can do these cool fights with these cool choreography. Whereas if this was a motion picture live action, this you probably could. Like, well, nowadays you could, but it would cost a lot of money and whatnot.
Breaking news: Episode 9 will be all jetpack related.
Oh my gosh! Shout out to Brock Smink.
Everything happening on jetpacks in Episode 9. So that is our iRebel for today. But this is going to be a double feature weekend because, like we said, we're getting ever closer to season 4. So we did 5 episodes today, which is Saturday. We're going to do 5 episodes tomorrow, Sunday, and we're going to plow through this season, guys. We're going to get there. We're going to get to the end of season 3 right in time for season 4 because we're hardcore like that.
Because you're not hardcore unless you live hardcore.
Never. Like us, subscribe us, send us flowers, send us candygrams. We like candy. What's your favorite candy?
Ooh, like a candy bar, like they call it in the United States of America, or like a chocolate bar, like we call it here in Canada, or like a gummy bear.
Oh,
Fuzzy Peaches.
Fuzzy
Let's
Peaches.
just go Fuzzy Peaches.
Fuzzy Peaches, okay.
And now I drive by, is it Grimsby or Stony Creek, and they have like the Fuzzy Peaches Sour Patch Kid factory, and I'm always like, I need to go to there. You know, anyway.
I like Starburst myself, and a good Wonder Bar. I'd never say no to. But that's
I Wonder Bar. Crispy Crunch. I love me some Crispy Crunch.
There you go. Get James
so
a Crispy
good.
Crunch.
You can in America. It's so good though. You guys need to come north of the border to have Crispy Crunch.
They don't have it in America?
No.
Really?
Nor ketchup chips.
How do we have a junk food that
Or
they don't have?
Yeah, we have a bunch. Kinder Eggs. You can't get a Kinder Egg there.
That's true. You guys are missing out on Kinder Eggs. But anyway,
Yeah.
come over here. We'll have some junk food. We'll show you a good time.
We'll hang out and we'll watch Rebels together.
Yes, and we will see you next time on iRebel, where we will be several hundred pounds heavier because of all the food we're about to eat.
I don't need to get any.
I made myself hungry. Bye.
That's it, guys.
Hey scumbags, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.